Hello everyone, this is SageEthereal, and welcome to another episode of FTB Infinity Evolved Expert Mode. I want to thank you all for stopping by and hanging out with me. It is always great to have you here. And this is going to be episode 27. In this episode, we have some things to look at, some things I did off camera, not a whole lot, mostly just building. We're going to try to make a little bit of progress in our tech progression by getting into some EnderIO. And depending on how long that takes us, we might try to find some other odds and ends to work on. In the last episode, in the last episode, we finished up our cobbleworks, which I have been decorating a little bit. You can see we've got a little bit of a dock type thing here. The cobbleworks is working away. You can see I've upgraded some of these drawers, namely this top row, because I wanted to get a lot of this concrete for an upcoming project. And it's still filling up the gravel at the moment. It has caught up in terms of stone, and the cobblestone's also full. So if we were to go down here, we would see it doing its thing. This will occasionally spit out a single smooth stone just to keep up with this pulverizer. I did add a trash can here, and I'm just trashing the secondary output of this one because it is sand. There's a small chance to get sand here, and it had built up because there's no more sand, there's no more storage available for sand, and it caused this to stop running, which is not ideal. But as is, it's just chugging away. That's full of cobblestone. Once this catches up, so once this gravel's full, I'll probably look into upgrading the glass and the sand. At the moment, with our current power production, which isn't that great, we can't actually afford to run all of these at the same time. I mean, they will run, and it'll be kind of slow, but it'll suck away power from everything else. Most importantly, our remote storage from RF tools, which is not fun. I'm going to sleep and get rid of the rain here. So the outside of our little cobbleworks is pretty basic. As I said, I made a little bit of a dock. We have what's supposed to look like bins holding excess gravel and cobblestone. And another one out here in the lake holding sand. My thinking was I may end up adding a decorative thing that looks like it is digging up the sand out of here and putting it up a conveyor belt, which then falls onto this pile. That may be something to do in the future. I decorated the quarry area a little bit, have some DecoCraft stuff, as well as micro blocks to look like supports. A grindstone, got some TNT and a crate. And that's pretty much it. I still need to eventually clean up this wiring and probably put together some sort of path to actually reach back here. It's not actually connected with the rest of the village at the moment. Since we're in this part of town, why not work on our EnderIO? EnderIO is kind of the highest tier of the industrial mods, is what I would say. So for things like processing ores and smelting and all that sort of stuff, it's kind of the top end. So what we want to make is a sag mill. This is the pulverizer type object of EnderIO. It will grind things down into dust form. And an alloy smelter, which is basically the furnace equivalent in EnderIO. Now the sag mill is pretty simple. We do have some of this crushed obsidian, which I had, pistons and iron's easy. The machine chassis, a little more complex because it does take a machine frame. We've seen those. Basic capacitors they're not hard, but they're annoying to craft. I will say that. The lumium, I'm not sure I did that on camera at all, but you start by making this lumium blend, which is just some tin, some silver, and some energized glowstone, which is just glowstone cooked down in the magma crucible. And once you get all that, let's see here, I'm going to need 5 of these capacitors, so have everything. We will pull those out. We will combine those with the lumium, the machine frames, and the iron bars to make 2 machine chassis. One goes in here with the pistons and the crushed obsidian and iron, and we get our sag mill. And finally, the other one goes in here, along with this capacitor. This takes electric furnaces from Industrial Craft 2, which we've seen, and the upgraded induction furnace. So this is just an electric furnace with some more copper and one of these advanced machine casings. Pretty standard, a little more in-depth because you do have to make the advanced alloys and carbon plates, but nothing too crazy. So we will grab that, and we have both of our machines. Now, temporarily, again, this whole building is still pretty much temporary. Things will probably be moved out of here eventually. We will go and we will put the sag mill there so it gets some power. And we don't need the ooh, that's interesting. I had left stuff in there. Okay. We don't need the rolling machine at the moment, so we'll put the alloy smelter. Sorry if you heard that crack. That was actually my knee. It's kind of odd. Okay, so the sag mill. Pretty basic. You put something in top, it gets ground up into various things that are output at the bottom. So, nice. So you can see we get sand, and I believe with the cobblestone, we can look up here, there's a chance of getting... Need to look at uses, not recipes. So it's a 100% chance of sand, and then a 10% chance of gravel. One of the things you can do with the sag mill is you can add a modifier object, basically. This can either be flint or these dark steel balls. And they do stuff like increasing your main output a bit, so you have a chance of getting even more, as well as increasing your bonus output and reducing the power a little bit. So they're nice. So the dark steel balls are better, obviously, but they require dark steel, which we can now actually make. I believe we could have made before, although you have to use steel in the induction smelter to get dark steel. In the alloy smelter, you can use iron, coal dust, and obsidian, so you don't actually have to turn the iron into steel. So that's that. I think this has some things that it can probably do that others can't. So you might be able to get or grind down things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. And they can be sped up with capacitors. So the double layer and the octadic capacitor will increase the amount it stores and how fast it goes, but also, obviously, how much power it takes up. The alloy smelter is the useful one, really. It allows us to create a lot of interesting alloys. So first off, it does just work as a furnace, and you can see you have 3 slots, so it will cook up to 3 things at a time. It goes up, it uses power, and eventually, actually going to see if I can get a little bit more sand here just to demonstrate something. We get stone. So pretty typical. The benefit comes when you use it to create alloys. As you can see, these are sucking up all the power. This isn't getting any. Also because the pulverizer at our cobbleworks is going. So that's why at the moment I can't access my remote storage. Which is bad when everything you own pretty much lives in that. Oy. Okay, so we have some sand. Now, what you can do is down here there's a button that says what mode the alloy smelter currently is in. There are 3 modes: all smelting, which does everything; alloys only, which only does special alloy smelting jobs; and furnace only, which only does standard vanilla smelting. So an example of this and the differences is if I were to put this in alloys only mode and drop in a piece of sand, it's going to cook up. And what I'm going to get is I'm going to get this quite clear glass from EnderIO. Not bad. It is quite clear, obviously. It doesn't, well, I don't know. That was a, okay, it does not break or shatter like normal glass. But what if you wanted just vanilla glass, vanilla Minecraft glass? That's where the furnace mode comes in. If I put that in there in furnace mode, it's going to look for the vanilla result, and we're going to get normal glass. So you can take advantage of this, and I think it defaults to the alloy smelting, the alloying result. If it's in all smelting, yeah. So if you have something that you want to get just like, in this case, glass, you need to go into furnace only. I'm going to set that to all smelting. Have a little bit of power left to actually get in here now. And we can look at one of the possible alloys. So you can take and you can make certain alloys. Look through here. Here are the main ones. You can make electrical steel, silicon, coal, iron. You can make this energetic alloy, which is useful. The vibrant alloy, which is also quite useful. A few other EnderIO alloys. You can also make things like bronze you can make in here. You can actually make EnderIO. Signalum can be made just straight in here, so you don't have to melt down the redstone in a magma crucible or anything like that. So it's nice and convenient too. So we were to drop all this in. It's in all smelting, so it'll work. It'll process up, and we will get some energetic alloy. So that is useful, because some of the higher tier things do need some of this vibrant and this energetic alloy. So like the next tier of capacitor, things like that. Now we actually had some of this energetic and even a little bit of the vibrant that we had found in some village chests. But now we actually can make our own. So that is good. And as far as processing goes, that is pretty much, like I said, the highest tier. You kind of have in expert mode, Infinity Evolved, that is. This doesn't really apply this sort of progression as much in non-expert mode. But in expert mode, you basically have tier 1 being your industrial craft stuff. That's the easiest stuff to get. Tier 2 is basically your thermal expansion things. And tier 3 is your EnderIO. So we now have pretty much hit the top of our industrial progression. Obviously there's a ton more machines and other stuff to do. But we have our first EnderIO machines, which is nice. Those are going to come in handy. As much for just convenience, really, as for the unique alloys it makes. Like I said, the alloys are going to be useful. There's a lot that you can only make in the alloy smelter, but it just works so much better. So one thing you might be noticing is that we had created a custom NPC. Just one to test. His name was Sparrow, he was a guard, and he was right here. Now, where is he? He's actually out patrolling. So I did go through and I did make a recipe for the NPC pather. We have here, the NPC wand was just sticks and bread in a hoe pattern. So I just followed that for the NPC pather, just sticks and bread in a sword pattern. So if we wander along here, somewhere we should run into Sparrow. Should be out wandering our western road here, which is what we're on now. And basically, there we go. I also gave him a torch. Why not? And he wanders around from that point, that crossroads back there, all the way down to this new area that I started working on, and that will be expanding in the future. Because if you remember, I mentioned I kind of want to impose some limits on the custom NPCs I use, both for semi-balanced purposes, but also for kind of immersive, I guess, purposes, and for really giving impetus to actually build a village-like area. So if we come over here, this road was already here, and it went out to our farm area, but here I have added a town square. This is actually a naturally spawning greatwood tree. That was here. I just built a planter around it, smoothed out the area a bit. And over here, we have the beginnings of our residential district. So it's just a basic little house. It's nothing crazy. I think it looks nice though. It's my pretty standard style, the kind of top-heavy look. So this is, if we look on the front, this is Sparrow's house. So the idea is that each NPC that I make in custom NPCs should have a bed somewhere, and preferably a house. Now, these aren't actual requirements of the mod, so that's one thing. Like I said, these are self-imposed. But I think it adds to it. It gives me reason to build things like this, and eventually we're going to end up with more. I was thinking probably have lots more houses off in this direction. Maybe a couple shop-type buildings here around the town square. And just kind of expand this whole little village concept. So you can see Sparrow on his guard duty. So what we have is we have some of these crates and barrels from custom NPCs just for decoration. On each house, I'm going to put signs with the occupants and what their job is, basically. So right now, Sparrow lives here, and he is our West Road guard. So I have named this the West Road creatively because it is heading west from the town square. And he is our guard. Inside, it is basically decorated, nothing amazing. Some crates and barrels for storage. This is actually a wooden water tank from Agricraft, which I'm using as a makeshift sink. Some tables and chairs and stools from custom NPCs again. We have a weapon rack here with a sword and a stick in it. The stick was actually placed accidentally, but I just left it. Might as well. We have an armor stand with some wooden armor. The wooden armor was chosen just because I had wood on me and I wanted to put something on it. And upstairs, just a basic little house, really. Some bookshelves and desks from Bibliocraft. A bed. Some vanilla type looking sofa and coffee table area. Some of these shelves. A little bit of carpet. And this is Sparrow's house. Now, Sparrow never actually goes into his house because that is more scripting and stuff than I want to do, and I'm not even sure if you can go that crazy with the mod itself. But he wanders around this road and beats up on any baddies that happen to come by. Eventually, I want to get him some armor and maybe a better sword. So right now he has no armor on, that's just his skin. And he has an iron sword, which is kind of cheaty since normally iron swords in expert mode are supposed to have 1 durability and break basically after 1 hit. But it appears that custom NPCs don't respect the durability of items. So he can run around and beat up on things all he wants, and his supposed to be nerfed iron sword is never going to run out. But that is probably going to be it for this episode. It wasn't very long. Like I said, it was kind of odd. I didn't really have a huge plan of what I wanted to do, but I really wanted to get that EnderIO stuff done. So I kind of rushed the episode out for that. In the future, we'll be adding more people, more places. So again, if you have any ideas, want to be inserted into our little village in any role, let me know in the comments. I should be able to make an NPC. I can definitely name them. I should be able to, if you give me your Minecraft username, even use your skin. And the theory is to eventually populate the area with tons of NPCs. They're not actually going to do much productive, but they're going to add flavor, you know? They're going to add some aesthetic effect. You know, eventually I want to have an NPC in here as our immersive engineering engineer. So he'll be manning this area, or she. She could be in here too. And like, if immersive engineering, I don't know if they add any custom armor or clothing or anything like that. But if they did, we could give them that. You know, down the road, my next big project, which I'm not going to get started on here too quickly, but the next big project is going to be a nuclear power plant. We really need to get into nuclear power from Industrial Craft 2, because some of the products, the byproducts of the nuclear power process are used in higher level things here in expert mode. So setting up a nuclear power plant is on the list of things to do. That is what the concrete is for. And, you know, like in there, we could have some nuclear engineers as custom NPCs, and we could give them, you know, like these hazmat suits, make them look the part. You know, just things like that. I'm thinking I may end up turning this little impromptu enchanting house, which was actually our first house way back in the beginning, into a little bit of like a dormitory, and having a couple miners as NPCs down here in the mine. We could probably have one up here doing stuff, maybe one down wandering around in the actual mine itself, and things like that. Probably put somebody in here. You know, every building should probably have at least one NPC in it, is the way I see it. We could have an undertaker living here in the crypt, or working here in the crypt and graveyard. But I'm looking for ideas, you know. If you have any ideas, things you'd like to see, let me know. I love hearing from you, and you know, feedback on the way things already look, any suggestions for the village. You know, the idea being, you know, we're going to have a main square here and probably more houses off in this direction. Maybe a bit of commercial type things, stores and whatnot around here, around the square itself and these two lakes. You could probably do with some public buildings, maybe like a library, town hall, things like that. So any ideas and suggestions there, including, potential designs, feel free to drop it in the comments. But I have been rambling more than enough. I do apologize for that. It has been a really talky episode. But like I said, I didn't really have much planned, and I still wanted to get an episode out, so that's just kind of how things go. I want to thank you all again for stopping by and hanging out with me. As always, it was great to have you here with me. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, tips, tricks, suggestions, you want an NPC named after you, do you want to be a nuclear engineer in our upcoming power plant? Obviously, I can't necessarily guarantee I can honor every request. We're not going to have like 30 people working in our nuclear power plant or anything like that. So in cases like that, it will be first come, first served. But that is it for this episode. Thanks again for watching. I have been SageEthereal, and this has been episode 27 of a creeper. Oh, not good. Okay, episode 27 of Feed the Beast Infinity Evolved Expert Mode. Take care, and have a great day.